Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our April. It's hard to believe it's already April. Leads meeting call. Um, we have several things to discuss this afternoon. I hope you guys are someplace warm and snuggly. I don't know if Heather and Libby saw it a while ago, but it was snowing in Charleston. So wherever you are, hope you're warm. If you have any questions at any time, you guys know you can put it in the chat or put it, or just unmute and talk with us. So we will go ahead and get started. I thought that we were going to have policy 2419 out for public review by now, but I kind of forgot that it was April 1st that we were having our call. So that policy won't go out until mid-April. The board, it's at the stage now where the board has to vote on it at the next board meeting and put it out for public comment. So that means that we're not going to be able to look at any of those changes yet. But what we will be able to do is talk about the uh, some of the changes that are going to happen um, that will be in our guidance document. So the first thing I wanted to let you know is that we've already set up the public hearings that we are mandated to have to discuss the policy changes. They are the first week of May, and there'll be a hearing in Beckley, one in Martinsburg, and one in Parkersburg. Um, what we did this time was take out all of the appendices in policy 2419, and we're going to move them to the SLP guidance document. Now, I know some of you will be very happy about that because you say that your special ed director says that anything that's in policy is what you have to use, and you didn't sometimes agree with whatever speech sound norms or that kind of thing were in there. But we are going to put everything in our guidance document this time. And that means that we can change it more often than we can policy. That's one of the reasons the guidance document hasn't gone out yet after all this time of working on it, because the changes that we were making didn't go along with policy. So by the time school starts in the fall, we'll have a new policy 2419, and we'll also have a new SLP guidance document. I want to show you some of the things we'll be using. I've written Virginia for permission to use these, and so I'm not going to share them with you now, but I will show them to you. And then we're also going to requesting permission to use the MECO probes and the percentage consonants correct. So I am just going to move these forms on over. Let's go ahead and talk first about speech sound disorders. And I have mentioned to you that we are going to be using the McLeod-Crowe norms. And as most of you know, those norms say that, just about all sounds, and R is one of the ones we always hear about, instead of 6.5 is 4.9. I've seen on Facebook posts, and I have already talked to you guys too about the fact that while I think it's important for us to use the most up-to-date norms, I think it's also important for you guys to help as we move forward with this to ensure that your SLPs in your county understand that just because that developmental norm chart says that they should be able to produce R by 4 years and 9 months, it does not mean that they automatically qualify for therapy at that age. It means that that's something we can look at, we can consider, but we have to show that there's an academic impact, and at that age, a social impact on those students. I've heard a lot of different viewpoints on it. I've heard that, our caseloads are going to explode, and honestly, they should not. If you're following eligibility criteria and doing the eligibility process correctly. I've also heard, oh, this is going to be great. We can put kids in. establish that R before it's really established as an incorrect pattern, and then get them out. You do not have to put those kids and identify them with a disability, which is what you're doing every time you write an IEP. You do not have to do that when you can use steps. If they just need some tweaking, if they just need to be shown proper placement, if they need some support at home, or if you want to go in and do whole classroom speech sound stimulation in kindergartens and preschool, that is absolutely fine, but you should not be identifying those students with a disability in an IEP unless you have all of the eligibility criteria met and they need specialized instruction, and there is an adverse impact on them because of it. It has to be an impact that you prove, not one that you project or think might happen later on down the line. It has to be a current impact that you have proof of. So I wanted to show you this, and we listened to Marie Ireland's webinar that she did on speech sound disorders this time last year. And I think if you remember, and you know, I can share the link again so you guys can review it and review it with your SLPs. But you know, she talks about the fact that just because those norms are out, it does not mean that, you know, we ignore eligibility criteria. So part of what we've added when we changed the eligibility and diagnostic criteria for speech sound disorders is we added some of these things that Marie talked about and that we've seen in other trainings that we've done. And one of them is the MECIO probe. The MECIO probe is a test of stimulability. And like I said, I've already applied for permission to use this form. We will adapt it. We'll give them credit for doing it in the ASHA creator, the ASHA on the form, but we can, you know, put a West Virginia logo on it. But with this, you know, you're going to have another way to evaluate the student. That's another thing, you know, always remember, you do not base a placement for a student for eligibility and identify them with a disability based on one test. So you need other formal and informal measures to look at. You can't just do it based on one test. That's one of the reasons too that we took away the 78 with the language testing. So with the speech sound disorders, one of the criteria is that they have a certain score on the MECIO probe. Another one is that they, on the percentage of sounds correct, consonant sounds correct, that they have a certain score. And this one, they have to say these sentences after you. They are imitating you, and then you mark the errors and figure out what their percentage of consonants correct is. So you're going to take all that information. You're going to take any dynamic assessment that you do where you try to teach the sound and try to train them how to do it, and you test them on it and then retest. Kind of a longer stimulability probe. You're going to take all that information plus the developmental norms and look to see if there is anything that is if there is a negative impact on the student. This graphic is from Virginia as well, and it just basically tells how to divide the sounds up and what age groups they belong to. But this is important, and this is one of the things we'll make sure we have on our forms, is there has to be a significant discrepancy from what's typical. It doesn't, if they're not placed based on unlimited English proficiency, and there is documentation to show that there is adverse effect on educational performance. And that they need the instruction of a certified speech language pathologist. They need that specialized instruction as opposed to you know, something like steps or that kind of thing. So, um, like I said, we're going to have to work together, and we're going to have to make sure that everybody understands. And I know that that's going to be hard in a lot of cases. But to be honest, even when we use um, other developmental norms like the Iowa, which puts the R, like for instance, at 6.5, people still ignore them, ignore that. They still put them in therapy. So, you know, we've been talking about educational relevance for the last 4 or 5 years now. So hopefully that's going to make a difference when we begin using these new guidelines. As far as what we will use for taking all that information and then putting it in to a rubric, let me show you what the rubric looks like. And you know what? I think I pulled that up. Libby redid all those forms for me. Hold on one second. Sorry, let me stop sharing my screen for a minute. Okay. Wouldn't look this up and take this long if we weren't going to be using all of it. So I apologize. While we are talking about this, I do want you to know too that we had some linked SLP forms. Okay. Okay, so here's the speech sound production one. Okay. All right, so you're going to take academic activities, tests, and measures, and you're going to look at speech probes, tests, and measures. And that's more like the MECIO probe, percentage consonants correct. And you're going to look at the scores down here and figure out where that student is at each one of these levels. So it's not like you're just going to look at one thing like the for instance, the speech sound norms, McLeod-Crowe norms, and make a recommendation for therapy. You're going to have to look at all these areas and circle or identify where the student falls for each one. If there's no impact, minimal impact, or moderate impact, and then determine where the student, if the student, you know, has at least a moderate to severe impact. The difference between minimal and moderate is what is going to help determine whether or not it's a disability. And so we'll be having trainings for these. You'll have the corrected forms and the final forms that we'll be able to do trainings with. And we will definitely have to do trainings with this process, but honestly, they all look about the same. They all have this type of division in these columns. So hopefully it's going to make it fairly easy once we get started with it. So for speech sound production, this is what we use after you've done all of your testing. Now, if we talk about language, I'm just going to pull it up while I'm here. The language assessment summary is going to look at academic activities, academic tests and measures, speech language pathology probes, and that's going to be like dynamic assessments and you know, informal checklists and that kind of thing. And then speech pathology norms, norm reference tests and measurements. So that can be like criterion reference tests and that kind of thing. You're going to do the same thing. You're going to look at all of your information that you've gathered, and it's also going to include things like narrative language sample analysis. It's going to include other things. We're not just going to be looking at a score of 78 anymore. We're going to be looking at standardized tests, norm reference test, dynamic assessment, narrative language sample analysis. Those are all going to be criteria that we can look at. Now, you do not have to use the Salad Lab. If you like to do your own language sample analysis, you're more than welcome to do that. There's nothing that says you have to use the Salad Lab. It's an easy thing to do, easy thing to use, but I know some counties prefer to do their own, and that's absolutely fine. If some of you have purchased, let's say, the sugar program or the salt program, and you prefer to do your own, that's fine, but you're going to look for 1.5 standard deviations with that. So another thing that we'll be using with language is we will be using, let's see if I can find it, a test form. It's a card, and this is one that they have in Virginia. And what they did was take all the SLP tests and put on there what their language areas are, um, dialect considerations. There's also um, normal scores, the sensitivity and specificity. So instead of having to go through the manuals and look for cut scores for each test and that kind of thing, it's all on here for you. And I had already requested permission to use this too. When Dr. Brandel contacted me and offered to do one for West Virginia that's based, on our information. So her grad students are creating one of those for us for West Virginia. So that'll be something you'll have, and you won't have to go through that calculation that she taught us to do during her comprehensive language evaluation trainings.
And you have some comments in the text.
Okay, Snowing in Morgantown also, I found 2 teacher rating scales that look at educational impact specifically for articulation that look good. Oh, that'd be great, Paula. Thanks so much. And Leslie said, if we use the Salad Lab, will they be aware of our timelines? I sent something to the lab and it took almost 90 days to get back. That I'm sure most of you that are on here have ever used the Salad Lab can tell Leslie that that's not an appropriate timeline and know that that's not something that usually happens. Dr. Brandel says that her timeline turnaround is typically 1 week. 90 days is completely out of line. And, if you haven't heard something within 2 weeks, then please contact them again or contact me and I'll contact them. But that is definitely inappropriate. She also says that when you send your sample in, if you are under a tight deadline, to be sure and let them know that, and they'll try to meet the deadline for you. But please try to make sure and plan ahead, and don't wait till the last minute to send it in. She did tell me, we had a Teams call recently, and she told me that their samples into the lab have just about doubled since our last meeting and our last monthly meeting. They asked me if I had mentioned to you guys to go ahead and make sure you were using it, and I told her I did. And so I'm thankful that you guys listened. We're watching to see if they need to hire more staff. And so if that's the case, then, we'll see what we can do to alleviate that. But don't ever wait for 90 days for anything. That it must have gotten lost in transit or something. I'm not sure what happened there, but no, that's not a typical time. And Sarah says, you're getting things back in about a week, but sign up to 2 weeks. Yep, some up to 2 weeks. Paula says, I've always gotten reports back in less than 2 weeks. And yeah, so that's what I said. If it takes longer than 2 weeks, reach out to them again. If you don't hear back from them immediately, please reach out to me and I'll contact them. So anyway, this is going to be another thing that we're going to have for reference for language determination. And then you're going to take, let's see, that's not the right one. I'm just going to go ahead and use this while this is here. Nope, maybe not. Okay, so here's the language assessment summary. And, oh, we already went over this one. I'm sorry. I swear I am so ADD. Sometimes if I get sidetracked, I can't get back on track. I apologize. So this is what you're going to be doing the same thing. You're going to try to see how they do in each area. And then if they're between moderate and substantial impact, then that's going to help let you know that they are a good candidate and probably have a disability when it comes to language. Um, like I said, we'll have to have more trainings on that to make sure um, that everyone understands, it's something different, but I really think that you're going to like it once you start using it. I think it gives a lot of information that you certainly don't have to figure out for yourself by doing it. So, um, okay, Spanish takes longer, Sarah says. So if you have students who have another dialect, it takes a little longer, but they do have the ability to do other languages. We gave them funding to be able to purchase the extra sets for the SALT that will do that. How many of you guys, if you can just put in the chat box, think that we need an updated training on how to interpret those language samples? Just put yes or no in the chat box if you could. Okay. Nope, they do a great job. Okay, that's fine. So do any of you feel confident that you could explain it at one of our next meetings? Okay, Sarah, I'm going to tap you and ask you if you would do that. I don't even remember. Libby, do we have a meeting in May? A leads meeting?
We do.
Okay. So Sarah, if you could maybe look at that, and if May is too soon, we could maybe just record you. Oh, okay. If you find out you don't have enough time, because I know this is a busy time of year, we could always record a webinar that we could share later. So you be thinking
Leanne,
about which way to do it. Yes, ma'am.
when they send everything, like they send all the charts and everything, but they send you a narrative where it's all essentially interpreted for you. Like it'll tell you this is within normal limits. This may represent this kind of impact. Like it does a great job. So, but I will be glad to go over what I get from somebody.
That would be good if you don't mind, because I've had several people tell me, yes, I sent the information in, but I don't have any idea what it
Back to you
means.
as soon as I can. Thanks.
So,
At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up.
somebody's got their mic on. Thank you. Okay. So one thing I wanted to mention to you before we go on, actually, I do need to let you know that I hadn't planned on it, but I did update the the fluency, child onset fluency guidelines to incorporate cluttering as well. And I also, we're going to use the same type of chart, same type of rubric um, for child onset stuttering, child onset fluency, and for voice. So those are just some minor changes that we did. You can still use your own fluency evaluations that you want to use. Um, and you can still use your own voice evaluations that you want to use. But we'll have that rubric to be able to put that information in afterwards and help us decide whether or not, they're in the range where they have a disability. I'm hoping that this is going to help too with those of you who, you know, um, have teams that, want to place students for therapy that you don't think should receive it. You'll have something visible to show them, look, there's just a mild impact for this student. It's not even moderate or severe. So, they really don't meet the eligibility criteria. So I hope once you start using these, and as soon as it goes out for public comment, as soon as policy goes out for public comment, I would love for you guys, I'll send it out to you, make sure you get the link. If you could, be looking over it and put your comments online. Don't send them to me, because at this point, the comments have to go to the board. But, just be honest and put whatever you think we need to change. But be sure and remember that there will no longer be any appendices for speech language in the back of the policy. So after thinking about, the potential for over-identification, I just wanted to mention that, if your county doesn't use the STEPS program, you may want to consider offering it next year. It's a really valid way. It's an MTSS model. If you haven't heard of it, please let us know and we'll be glad to send you. Libby's already done some recorded modules that you can use for your staff to listen to and determine if you want to use it. Or we can do live trainings. We can, have somebody come to your county, work with you on setting up your own STEPS program. But it really does save not only the responsibility to do makeup therapy and to meet an IEP, but it saves over-identification of students, because we've talked before about indicator 6, and we've talked about indicator, let me see which one it is, 9, oh, sorry, indicator 10. Where there's over-identification of disability categories. And we've talked about the fact that if you have so many students identified with speech language impairment, with the ratio that they look for in the annual desk audit, your county could, actually be in a position where they might have to use 15% of their budget to provide ways to not over-identify. So we need to be very cognizant moving forward of that and not just think, oh, well, it doesn't matter. If I want to put them in, I'll put them in. Yes, it really does matter. And you need to make sure to be able to defend yourself and your county that you've followed all of the eligibility criteria and the procedures. So let's see a couple other comments. Leslie says with proper supervision and training, this would also be wonderful for SLPAs to use. Yeah, it would. How are we educating special education directors on the additional responsibilities of adding steps to our workload? We have talked to them. We've done a webinar for them. We've suggested to the ones who've contacted us that they count each STEP student as that they count 5 STEP students as one student with an IEP. Just trying to figure out a way to give them a number to look at. And we'll continue to do that because honestly, they do not want over-identification in their county, because that, like I said, can cost them eventually up to 15% of their budget to correct that issue. So we will make sure that we, talk with them about it again. We're having monthly meetings with them again, monthly Teams calls. So I will make sure that it's on the agenda. I'll share the link again for the training that we've already done, the webinar we've already done. And I always offer, to come to any county and work with them to set up their own program. And so, and Paula says she has a new director, and I know there are a lot of new directors right now. And there are also some directors who maybe, it's kind of like training that we get. If it's not pertinent to them at the time, then they pick and choose, what they're going to listen to. They go to what's important for them at the time. But to be, to start over identifying students when we're already I think our numbers have gone up from last year by 400 students as far as identification. And a lot of that's being blamed on masks and, kids not being able to see people's faces and that kind of thing for articulation. But just remember those guidelines too, and remember that you're in an educational setting. You are not in a medical setting just identifying disorders. It has to be a disability. So let's go on. Just a reminder about the salad lab, and I did want to tell you that, that Dr. Brandel is going to make a test card for us. We had already thought about asking her, and she reached out, and then one of our reviewers, one of our 5 reviewers who were lead SLPs suggested that too. So I'm really thankful that's going to work out. But, just remember what the research says too. I know a lot of people think, oh, it's just one more thing to do. We don't really need it, but there is so much information that comes from it. And, you're going to see that they will be picking up students and picking up issues that you're not going to with those developmental tests we've been giving all these years. And the research shows, we're supposed to be using evidence-based practice and do what's based in research. And research shows the diagnostic accuracy of narrative retells is high, in addition to being a sensitive indicator of language impairment. One of the things that the most recent research has shown too is that doing therapy using narrative retells is the best way to incorporate all aspects of language instead of working on prepositions and working on pronouns and that kind of thing. So any of you that have the Story Champs kits or the skills kit, doing those types of language interventions makes so much more impact than just working on individual parts of speech and language. Okay. And there's the link again to access the Salad Lab. If there's anybody who's not using it, and you have a question about it, or there's some reason you haven't haven't used it yet, please reach out. I'll be glad to help in any way. And Paula says, no, yeah, Paula says the Salad Lab makes it easy. It takes less than 15 minutes total for me. If I know the first couple of ones, that you might be a little nervous about it, but that's the reason I'm saying practice it now too, before it gets to the point it's part of the eligibility criteria. And like I said, you can choose to do your own, or you can choose to not use that as one of your measurements. I didn't make it so you had to meet every measurement, but I think I forget how many it is out of a choice of 5, I think. So you've got some wiggle room there, but narrative language sample analysis has been proven to be one of the most effective indicators. Okay, so we've talked about the documentation of professional development. And, when we were I explained to you guys that when we were doing the policy 2419 update, I saw that you were supposed to be submitting your results to me. So what we're going to do is take for granted that in those past couple of years you have had the proof within your counties. And so for this 21-22 school year, you're going to be sending me your proof, your documentation that says that that all of your SLPs have met that requirement. I have a form ready. I'm going to show it to you right now. It's very simple. And we'll get one designed this summer to use from now on. But it just says your county name, and you have 2 choices. You say either I verify all, however many speech language pathologists and speech language pathology assistants in our county have completed their 12 hours of in-field professional development for the 21-22 school year, or I verify that however many speech language pathologists have completed it, except for you're going to put somebody's name and address in this email address in this box. The people listed will be contacted and asked to complete the 12 hours of professional development. I will contact them, give them options, and then track whether or not it's been completed. It's a requirement that's in policy, and it's also a requirement that's in another policy, Policy 5500. So it's in 2 board policies that we do have to make sure that we meet. So, for the most part, you guys have so many options. We have so many Teams groups. You have Wavisha. You have some of your counties purchase the speechlanguagepathology.com license for you and that kind of thing. So you have a lot of options. We also have those modules on West Virginia Learns. And, you know, you have a lot of different, plus your county provides trainings for you. I've been getting more of those requests for authorization to have me approve your county trainings. And, you know, those of you who've been doing that know that I've been telling you in some cases, yes, these parts of the training count, but these parts do not. So it's always better to do that. If you're in a county that has a lead SLP, just reach out and, you know, send that form and we'll tell you whether or not those will count. And then everybody will be in compliance. I see some information going in here. Contracted SLPs are excluded. Yes, they are excluded, Paula. And the reason we're doing that is because they do have their West Virginia license, but in order to keep their ASHA and that kind of thing, and their Board of Examiners licensure that they need in order to practice, they have to do the 12 hours. So they're just going to be within, they have to do the 30 hours within 3 years. So, and 20 for the licensure. So they are still getting CEUs that are required. And yes, substitute SLPs are excluded too. If they're not, you know, hired as an SLP or an SLPA, if they're just a sub, then they don't have to. I don't think there's anything in policy that says they have to. So I will double check on that. But I will email this form on the listserv just to you guys, and I'll also make sure it goes out to your directors. We've talked about the fact that some counties have their own PD systems. You know, you have your own systems that track your PD. I know Kanawha County always did. If you have those, then just, you know, keep those somewhere. Keep the proof that that person met it for that year somewhere, um, you know, either online or whatever, and have them keep their copy in case there would ever be a question about it. But all you have to send to me is this form that says you've checked their stuff and that you verify that they've all done it. Okay, I see Lee says, does this have to be county provided PD or it can just be webinars everyone's doing? It just has to be in field, Lee. If it's anything from Wavisha, it's automatically counted. If it's anything from ASHA, it's automatically counted. If it's anything from us, it's automatically counted. If it's something that your county has provided, that's when we suggest that you fill out that form to request approval. Because if it's something the county provided, let's say they did it on something that's out of field, they did it on Medicaid or they did it on um, documentation systems, that kind of thing, those don't really count because the policy clearly states it has to be within the field specific, like speech sound disorders, language, those kinds of things. So, you know, just be careful with that. But you're going to be signing off for them, so you know that's the way that will work. Does anybody have any questions about this? I know you guys have been worried about it, and I'm sorry for not getting it sooner. But does this make sense to everyone? Now's the time to ask. Okay. All right. So. We're going to go through some of the upcoming trainings now. We do have our spring ethics session. It's April 29th from 8 to 9. And the registration for that doesn't begin until April 18th. We're not going to open the registration until then. There's some information on the next slide that's going to tell you that. Libby just posted in the chat box a QR code and a link to, you know, submit your ethical dilemmas. Please share that link with your SLPs because that's how we get the cases that we discuss. We're going to be following the same format we always follow and talk about them together as we go through the Lisa Power Defer, I never can say her name, her system of looking at ethical dilemmas. So please submit those. We need those by 15th is what I'll look at it in just a second. But Libby also put on here some of the, she did the slide for me. Teams training, preschool, will be April 8th and 519 service delivery. So we just have 2 more left this year. No more AAC team trainings this year. We do have Karen making some webinars for us. And I also got permission to have her do some more for us for this coming year. And we're going to have to be looking at these teams that we've had and thinking about, has it pulled you guys out too much of, doing direct therapy? Which ones have been really helpful? Which ones could you live without? Because honestly, between doing the prep for them, doing the certificates for them, and the ASHA CEUs, it's been quite a lot of work. If they're helpful and you're using them, then we'll do it. But we want to make sure that we're not doing more than's needed. And then we have SLPA meetings on April 15th and 20th, May 20th. So here again is the QR code and the link for the ethical dilemmas. And when I send out the save the date information on Monday, please make sure to send that out to your SLPs and, kind of encourage them to turn in those ethical dilemmas for us. Registration closes today for Celebrating Connections. I wanted to make sure we went over this again and, talk about the fact that 3 hours of non-degree grad credit will be awarded for that this summer. The assignments must be completed by April 29th, and they're now located on the website. I sent out an email, a listserv email about it this week. So submitting, I'll get to that in just a second, but there are a lot of people contacting me saying they need non-degree grad credit hours, and this is a great way to get it, either for salary advancement or for certification. We talked last time about trying to do some work on reading our role in literacy, as well as talking about dyslexia. And dyslexia is a big it's a big buzzword right now. The I think it was American Dyslexia Society decided to come into West Virginia, and since then we have been hearing a lot about it. And we're going to approach it through the science of reading modules. We're going to start with that first. And then we talked about having a joint training series for SLPs and school psychologists. We want that to be a collaborative effort because we talked about the fact that, they feel like they're the ones who can help with the narrowing down this, the other conditions that might be causing the reading issues. And we're the ones who can help with the phonemic and morphological awareness activities. So, working together as a team instead of, fighting who's responsible for identifying the students who have literacy issues is going to hopefully be the best bet. We don't Libby has tried to reach out for actually a couple of years now to Stephen Griffin to see if he would be interested in coming back. But we haven't heard from him. We're not sure if he's even still working in Ohio, and we've even tried to track him down on Facebook. So I know I saw Kelly Farquharson's webinars that she did through this SLP Summit. And Paula contacted me about her too and thought that she was a really good presenter. If you guys have any idea for people that we could reach that are, can talk about speech specific literacy issues, please let me know because we would like to, have a speaker that represents us and what we can bring to the table. And then we'll also have a webinar series with the psychologist. They're going to have a speaker who will talk to us about their pieces. And we'll go from there. I see Lee says that Kelly would be fabulous. I thought she was really good too. and her information was clear and easy to understand. So we'll definitely check with her and check on her availability. But I just wanted to mention that to you. If you come across anyone else, please just reach out or post it in our Teams group, and we'll take it from there. Please remind your speech language pathologist about the 6 hours of non-degree grad credit to renew their certificates. Every spring, every single spring, I get requests from people who say, I need to have 6 hours before June 30th. And one year, Dr. Brandel created a 7-week class for somebody just so they could get their certificate in time. And we are not going to ask anybody to do that ever again. So I talked, as I said in that email that I sent this week, I talked to certification. They're, as long as those grades are posted that first week of August, we should be able to get that certification through. But they have to start thinking about it sooner. What happens is they're trying to do 6 hours during the summer and they're not happy about it, and I don't blame them. But, that's the requirement. Everybody knows it's the requirement. So we need to make sure we're on it ahead of time. And if you have your master's plus 30 or you're over 50, I don't think you have to do it. So, most of the new grads are graduating with master's plus 30 right out of the gate. So hopefully we can get on a better track with this. And the Celebrating Connections is one way to get it. West Virginia Learns courses will be available. Registrations opens today. So Celebrating Connection registration closes today. West Virginia Learns opens today. They can take all about addiction, universal design, or digital citizenship. And, be sure and look for those inactive courses so they don't have to have a classroom to complete assignments. And then we have talked with Marshall University now and know that the Communication Matrix module course, AAC intervention through the Communication Matrix module, will be 3 hours of non-degree grad credit. Karen Haynes is the instructor. The course will run through the summer 1 session. And while it looks like a long time, you're only having 3 class meetings, and those would be 3 Wednesday evenings from 5 to 7. So if you're going on vacation, if you're, you have things to do during the summer, this is a hybrid asynchronous and synchronous course. So the asynchronous piece is you have the assignments right up front, and you're able to complete them on your own schedule, on your own time. The only thing that's synchronous is those 3 Wednesday evenings where you have the discussion. So I'm really excited about this course. I think you're going to be, whoever, decides to take it will be really happy with the information you get from it. And this will be our first time using these modules to teach a course. I wanted to mention the salary supplement from ASHA. It's been in place for so many years, and I just assumed everybody knew about it, but I get questions about it every now and then. And so I'm going to make sure that I mention it from now on at different times during the day. Before we go on to this, though, Lee says, are there any fees associated with it? Marshall University does not charge admission fees. They do not charge, you don't have to be a Marshall student to take these courses. The cost for the course is a total of $141. So it's much more reasonable, I think, than some other universities. So the application forms are on that this web link. This is a direct link. The salary supplements allowable for speech language pathologists who are certified by ASHA. The directions for application are on the link, and I think I forgot to check with Julie, but I think the applications for the first time applications have to be in by September 30th. I'll double check that and post it in the Teams group. It wasn't on the website when I checked it, so I'm not sure they've updated the website, so I'm not sure what the date is. It can be renewed each year. It's not limited to 10 years like National Teacher Board Certification, and you renew it by I said the 30th, it's actually the 31st of each year. And it comes with a $2,500 supplement. In some cases, counties match that supplement. and others they don't, but that supplement, that $2,500 is a supplement that's provided from the state. And Julie Morris is the primary contact person in the Office of Certification for that. We are back up to recording level 5 of the communication matrix modules, and we just have, you know, 6 and 7 to go to get the final copy. So we're working, we're working through that, and we're also going to be applying for ASHA CEUs for anyone who just goes through those by yourself and want to get ASHA CEUs for it. An email will go out whenever those are posted and ready for viewing. Better Speech and Hearing Month. Last year, I worked with a person in our communications department that helped us post features on the WVDE website to advertise Better Speech and Hearing Month. Last year, Superintendent Birch was making videos, like for different months, and he did one for the Autism Month that we thought was really cool. So we wanted to do one for Better Speech and Hearing Month. Come to find out that they do those videos, a couple of months in advance. And so this year it was on my calendar to talk with the lady who was doing them in March. And so 1st of March, I contacted her, and she actually changed jobs. So now they have a new person. She just changed jobs in mid-March. And so they have a new person, and they haven't been doing as much with that kind of thing lately. So I would like to celebrate Better Speech and Hearing Month in some way. We had hoped for a video, but if you guys want to do features like we did on Facebook, we could definitely do that. We can put them in my personal account, and I can check about getting them on the WVDE account. So if you know anybody who might be interested, please contact Libby. Libby, I didn't tell you I was going to do this, but please contact Libby, and we can work with that, with whoever wants to do it and volunteer. Whoever wants to volunteer, we'll work with them to get the feature done and get some pictures, and then post it on Facebook. So if you guys have any other ideas of what we can do to celebrate, we've talked about a lot of different ideas, but honestly, everybody gets busy this time of year, and we end up not doing as much. So any ideas, please let us know. Paula says she really enjoyed Michelle Moore's session during Wavisha, and she may be a good speaker on literacy. Yes, I did too. And of course, we know, Michelle. She's kind of the assistant director over the, actually the director over the online program. So I thought she was a very good speaker too, and that's a great suggestion. So we'll, check them both out. It could be we could get them both. We'll see. So.
And did you see Sarah's chat suggestion for her professor at Baylor?
No, I did not, but I see it now. Okay. Thank you, Sarah. Thanks so much. Okay, Libby, do you mind explaining about the Gail Van Tatenhove recordings real quickly? We just have one more month, right? Okay, just
we have one more month. I just turned in March. But if people want to get credit for viewing her recordings, they can do it in April, but then it has to be submitted to me, all of them completed by the end of April, because I have to turn it in May 1st. So a lot of people are taking advantage of it. I turned in about 18 different either certificates or ASHA CEUs. So it seems to be going over well, and people like the fact that there's flexibility. So just, if you'll encourage your folks to do it in April, then, and there's a whole process. I think, Leanne, you sent out the email that gave the information. Yeah. And if people have questions, they can also contact me.
And this says that the modules will be posted on YouTube. They've already been posted. So anybody who wants to go on our YouTube channel and watch them, you can watch them without doing anything for ASHA CEUs. Thank you, Libby. And that's just more information about Gail's videos. This is just a reminder. as we do our monthly Teams calls and Teams trainings, that, if you watch it live, you use the link after the presentation. If you watch the recording, you use the QR code, and you have 2 weeks after the live presentation. Libby has been working herself to death to get this stuff, straight, so that she, lets you know when the recordings are ready, and, is taking care of the ashes that you use as people are turning everything in. So just wanted to remind you that that's how that works, so there's no misunderstanding. Libby, these are your forms about SLPAs.
Yes, thank you. It's that time of year where the verification report and the total year's DUSA form is due, as well as the verification of attendance. That's the professional development certificates for the 12 hours. We're doing it differently this year. If you want to go to the next slide, we have the SLPAs turn it into their SLPA team, and either the SLPA or the supervising SLP upload it to the shared folder. And when I presented to them last week or week before last, I told them to ask you guys if you have a policy as to whether you would like them also to email them to you as well. The verification report and the DUSA form, which is a part of the verification report, and the certificates are all required in order for the SLPAs to be reauthorized. And they're due June 1st. And you might want to reach out to your supervisors and your SLPAs to tell them what you want them to do within your county. But we went over how to turn in the forms and how to upload them. We're trying it different this year, and hopefully it'll work because we've been practicing. So they're not going to be emailed to Leanne. Because if they upload it to their shared folder, then she has them all already there. And then I'm able to check and see that they're there. So hopefully that will eliminate an extra step, but I just wanted you to, make sure you let them know how you want them to communicate with you.
And just a reminder too, that the reason I need those forms is I cannot authorize their SLPA renewal for their authorization unless they've turned that information in. And I've had to call people in the summer and try to get a hold of them, and their licenses have been put on hold. So just, kind of remind them that it's very important they get it done.
And the other thing we run into is, and I've been encouraging the SLPAs to upload their certificates that represent the 12 hours that are listed on their verification report. But we often run into, people saying, oh, I attended this in my county, but I didn't get a certificate. And then we're contacting you to try to get a certificate. So I've really been encouraging them to do it as it goes along. So it won't be so crazy for everybody at this crazy time of the year, but you might get some questions about that as well. But then all of that information is turned in, and then this expires on June 30th, and they start again on July 1st. We're asking them not to renew until 2 weeks before the June 1st, because it gets kind of crazy, and it's just that makes a lot more logical sense to wait. We've had some who've reauthorized and requested reauthorization already, and it just makes it confusing. So when you talk to them,
it's the fact it's the fact too that they can't have all of their supervision information because they've done it like a month or two before school's out. So we need their entire year of information.
Exactly. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And so then they would go, they know to go to this WVDE certification website. And then on the next slide, it shows the form that they fill out, and it's the Form 38. But just remind them that they do have to do that in order to be reauthorized. And it's the same thing with all of these things that go through certification. It takes a while. So they want to wait until it's not too early, but they don't want to wait a long time either. So you just might want to touch base with them.
Okay. This is just a reminder to sign up your new SLPs and SLPAs for, with us using this link, and that way we can make sure they get resources. Even if they were hired after the beginning of the year, please let us know about them and, post in your Teams group. I do want to mention that we're going to be either sending out or dropping off the books that we had ordered during the comprehensive language evaluations for students who are deaf, hard of hearing. We have the Steps to Assessment book from Karen Anderson and Success in the Fast-Paced Classroom by Karen Anderson. So as we're doing some of our public hearings, I may be dropping off or contacting some of you guys to see if I can drop off some of your all's books with you so that you could get them to the people in your county. When we try to do it to the board office, a lot of times they get misplaced, and I hate to lose some of those good resources. So did want to mention that. And then any questions? I'm sorry.
There's a
Sorry,
question
2
about
o'clock.
the SLPAs on permit. The ones that were the WVU program. And
Okay.
that we've talked about that at a lot. Well, I think a lot of people don't feel that they would be ready. And so it's kind of a decision with the SLPA and the supervisor. I don't think you can assume that. But the question that I think Sarah is asking is, which permit would they file for? Would they file for the permit or the reauthorization? You're talking, but I'm not hearing you, Leanne. Okay.
Oh, I wasn't talking because I was
Okay.
reading Stephanie. I'm sorry. I thought you were answering that one. What we have talked about is I honestly think that they need to still be supervised, even if they're on permit. The county has to determine whether or not they're ready to hire them on permit. The nice thing about them being on permit is the fact that they don't have to re-advertise their job every year. So it gives them some security, and it also gives them a little bit of a pay bump. The thing of it is we still are concerned that they don't have, the ability at this point to practice on their own without any supervision. So we're going to be working with those supervisors, and I've already talked to WVU about it. They don't have to complete the supervision plans and all that, but we really feel like they need to have a supervisor within the county to be able to, talk with, go over questions with, and that kind of thing. Do you guys foresee that being a problem? I mean, I know that your special ed directors want want as many kids being seen as possible, but we don't want to do it and have them being seen by people who may need some more direction. And I will definitely be talking with special ed directors about that too, the special ed directors involved with the WVU students. Is that what you wanted me to answer, Libby? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that I think, just to explain, Sarah wants to know, how would you know? Well, I think, as I recommended in the combined meeting, I think first you need to have an open discussion, evaluation with your SLPA to determine whether you think they're ready. And also, I think you need to find out, or as best you can, discover whether you would be able to do supervision without them being an SLPA, because I think some people know that once they go on permit, then the caseloads will be reassigned again, and they may not have many opportunities to supervise. So it's one of those, ethical quandaries. And so I think that's what I'd recommend. Leanne, do you have any other suggestions?
I would just say that, I'm going to mention it to the directors, and let them know that, I personally don't feel like they're ready. I mean, that's a part of the policy 5202, I think, that talks about the supervision, and they're able to get their first class permit without any supervision when they have 25% done. Guidance counselors and psychologists need at least 70% to be completed before they can get theirs. I think the reason ours was set at 25% was that was an effort before I got here to be able to get more people out in the field, being able to practice and see more students. I think our requirement should be probably a happy medium, like around 50%. But that's going to be difficult to back up in some cases because ASHA has lessened their requirements. They don't have a minute that way. We can be more, we can ask for more. And I think we will as we update the new guidance document. I mean, the SLPA guidance document yet again. But I think we need to, I think having a mentor is a good idea, Sarah. I think, having someone for them to be able to, touch base with and ask questions of. I do want to say, though, that during my conversation with WVU, the students were complaining about several things, and they complained to us about several things for WVU too. So it's, they're under a lot of pressure right now. I get that. But they are saying in some cases that they are alone doing IEP meetings and writing IEPs. And if you find out that that's happening within your county, it needs to stop because that is definitely against policy. It puts your county in danger as far as errors being made and that kind of thing. And if you have any questions about that, please let me know. Stephanie Richards asked a question that says, Michelle's Moore session, would it be possible to obtain permission to share with SLPs in our county to view? That's something you'll have to check with Sarah Clemens about. I don't have any control over any of, that thing that we would do. We just pay for speakers. But I'm sure they would share it with you in some way, maybe. And if not, we'll definitely try to get Michelle to do one for us too. But thank you for asking. Did I miss anything else?
I think you
Stephanie's
got it
typing.
all.
Okay,
Lee,
Stephanie's typing.
it's Lee. I was
Uh-huh.
wondering, I've had a couple SLPs in the county ask me if we could reshare or re-educate special education directors. They're already being told that they are needed to help with the state testing.
Sure.
So they were wondering like what their response should be or what has been said so they can help advocate for themselves to not be in that position.
Sure. I'll send it out Monday.
Okay,
to
thank you.
directors. Sure. And thanks for reminding me about that too. I appreciate it. Okay, I forgot I'm supposed to be on a call at 2 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and hop off. Libby's put there is a verification of attendance in the chat box this time because it has some questions for you to answer. If you guys would please do that, I would really, really appreciate it. If you have other things that we didn't get to cover, please just send me an email or post it in the group and we'll take care of it that way. Okay, Leslie said, has anything been mentioned about SLPs not subbing or covering classrooms? That was taken care of a long time ago. We can send out a reminder about that too, but we are not licensed to be able to, take care of classrooms as much as they want to, as much as we follow what teachers do as far as some of the requirements, we do not have the certification to sub. So we'll try to make a clarification for that as well. But that happened a long time ago. That went out a long time ago. So, I know that, during strikes and that kind of thing, it always comes up because of emergency situation. But, and with COVID, I'm sure there were times that they thought there were emergencies, but we're not supposed to do that. Let's see, Heather, I saw Heather was typing. Subbing, then maybe I should go directly to the director. And your director's new too. I'm fairly new, Leslie. So I will send out an email. I see you guys are typing some more. Let me just get on my other call real quick and tell them that I still have some questions going on and I'll be there in just a second. Okay. Okay, I don't see any other questions popping up. Like I said, if you want to post them in the Teams group, I'll be sure and check there. And if anything comes up in the meantime, you guys know you can email me or post it in the Teams group and we'll get it worked out. If you haven't heard from me within a couple of days, just send me a reminder. I'm trying hard, but we've got a bunch of different projects going on. So anyway, you guys take care, stay warm. It's snowing here again. I will see you next month.